Hello and welcome to an episode that I don't know the number of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and Jason and I are sitting together in our living room in Tampa. So,
We didn't get to watch the game together because they canceled my morning flight,
true.
but it probably was for the best because that was a hideous
It was brutal to say the least.
30-7 was the score.
And it wasn't that close.
No.
But, in defense, the only thing I'll say in defense is that the Steelers played a really good team that I picked, I think, to go to the Super Bowl.
You did.
And so I didn't see anything about that team that surprises me. But the 49ers, I should say, the Steelers, we had a lot of surprises.
Yeah. For me, the number one thing that scared me was the contrast between the way Brock Purdy played and the way Kenny Pickett played. And Brock Purdy, there were plays where he was under pressure, and they highlighted it on the broadcast. You watched him. His eyes were looking downfield. He was running, and he was finding receivers open. And Pickett he reminded me of Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghosts, which I don't like to think about.
Oh, that's so painful.
But that's what I saw in Pickett yesterday. And then once again, I read something online that under Matt Canada, the Steelers you have to average, I think, 24 points is the average to win a football game in the NFL. And the Steelers have scored under 20 points in 25 of his 36 starts as an offensive coordinator. They're the only team in the NFL, I think, in the last 4 years not to have over 400 yards in any game. And there's never a play with Matt Canada's offense or Tom, whoever you want to say, the Steelers' offense over the last 3 or 4 years where you're amazed by the play design.
You never see a Steeler receiver running free.
No.
You usually do see somebody with a well-coached team, with a really good quarterback, with a really good scheme. You will see plays just designed to get people open, and we just didn't see that yesterday.
I mean, look no further than the Chiefs, who did lose, and we'll talk about them when we talk about our contenders. But Kadarius Toney dropped 4 wide open passes where he was wide open, and they had other plays where the receivers were running open. I guess the only highlight, and if we stick with the negative, it was the most non-Steeler fans at a Steeler game, I think, in a decade. They said at home, they were selling their seats. And Cam Hayward is out for 8 weeks with a sprain in his groin. But T.J. Watt tied James Harrison's sack record. He had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. So there's our silver lining.
That's our silver lining. So let's move on to some of the other big surprises. I thought the best game of the day was the Dolphins and the Chargers.
Yes, that was a fun. That was if you were just a football fan with no rooting interest, that was the best game to watch.
But it was also the stupidest way to lose.
Yeah.
With an obvious pass interference penalty at the end of the first half, with no time left on the clock, letting Miami kick a field goal, a short field goal, and win the game eventually by 2 points, and that field goal was a margin of error.
But it was the Chargers who
find a way to lose.
I think we both picked to come in second because we don't trust them, no matter what their coach is, no matter who it is. It's just, like you said, going back to Dan Fouts, the Chargers, and they're just...
I'm going to call it the curse of the other team in L.A. Right? Think about it. The Angels.
Yeah.
The Clippers.
Yeah.
And the Chargers.
It's very true. I never thought about it like that.
The curse of the second team in L.A.
And I guess we can really quickly highlight the first team in L.A. who put it on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. And for a team that we thought might be trading away players in Week 8, looked pretty dominant. And they didn't have Cooper Kupp.
No,
30 undrafted players.
Cooper Kupp, they have 30 undrafted players, and it's the old Herm Edwards. Geno Smith is who we thought he was.
Yeah,
or at least he was again yesterday.
And I want to tie this back to our beginning anti-Steeler offense moment. The Rams didn't have Cooper Kupp. They had Tutu Atwell, who was like 5'8", and Panuma, I don't even know his full name.
I don't know it either.
Both those guys had like 10 receptions, and they were running open all day. And, I don't know what it's just, Sean McVay is an offensive guy. He knows how to get people open, and they got people open.
Then we hit the Giants and Cowboys
For about 5 minutes.
for about 5 minutes. Not a lot to say about that. It was an ass kicking. Now the Cowboy bandwagon will be real crowded, and we'll see what happens when they play Philadelphia.
Now, I thought Tony Kornheiser, I like giving people credit for their takes. His pouring water on the Dallas Cowboys season was that the Giants moved the ball right down the field, tried to kick a field goal, got blocked, which is pretty rare, returned for a touchdown. Then you had the Saquon Barkley, who does not usually fumble the ball, caught a screen pass, turned around, got popped, ball went in the air, returned for a touchdown. All of a sudden it was 14-0 before anybody could blink. And sometimes those games
They just get out of hand.
they get out of hand, and
That's why I'm not on the Dallas bandwagon. It was an ass kicking. The Giants are not that bad. The Cowboys probably aren't that good.
yeah. I think the surprise game for me, I'd like to say it was San Francisco-Pittsburgh, and it probably was, but I don't want to talk about that one anymore, was the Bengals and the Browns. Where the Browns,
real shocker.
The Browns whooped them.
I'm a big Joe Burrow fan, and I'm just really surprised. So I got to maybe go into camp that maybe he shouldn't have, maybe he wasn't ready to play.
No. And they talked about, they've gotten off to slow starts almost every year under Burrow, so maybe you just sit him out for 2 weeks. Don't throw him to the Wolves with the Cleveland Browns with that nasty offensive line and a team that just does seem to, like, Tony Kornheiser, again, we watched that today, that's why it's in my mind. But he just talked about how the Browns consistently beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
Just fight styles, just don't match up.
No, and that happens. A lot of teams have someone that they just don't match up well with. So for Steelers, we'll say it's the 49ers.
Yeah.
We're anticipating the Jets Buffalo tonight, but as we sit here, it looks like that could be delayed because of bad weather in New York. Just like they had bad weather last night with the Giants game. I think the same storm front is there with the hurricane, the outer bands in the storm. So we will have to see on that one.
And I know both those, I don't want to see a torrential downpour game with Josh Allen. As much fun as it is to watch sloppy games. Aaron Rodgers' first game in New York with the Jets. Josh Allen and the Bills offense coming in. Like, I don't want to watch a sloppy, rain-filled game where people are dropping passes and you don't really get a read as to who's good and who's not good, as much as you can in the first week of the season.
I want to give a shout-out to Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Sitting around for a couple of years, comes out, throws for 3 touchdowns.
No picks.
And continues the Packers' mastery over the Bears.
Yeah. A genuine ass whooping. And again, he's been confident all season, looked really good, looked really sharp. I guess we should talk that, the other team in that division that people love, the Lions, did beat the Chiefs, who we haven't had a chance to talk about that game.
Yeah, and I'm going to give the Chiefs credit for contributing to that occurrence. Yeah. For not being able to catch the ball. And say what you will, it could be a long year for Patrick Mahomes because they really don't have a quality receiver.
And much like, because this is our podcast and we have to bring it to the Steelers all the time, with Cam Hayward being 34 years old, 13 years in the league, going on the IR right now, like, that's not a player you can really count on. And Travis Kelce, who has been insanely healthy almost his entire career, almost never misses a game, is 34 years old, has over a decade of hits in the NFL, and he did miss a game due to injury. Yeah. And at some point, you
can't outrun Father Time, as they say.
No. Although Tom Brady and his hair at the New England game, it seems to be growing at a rate that is more of a teenager, but, good for him. And he almost rallied that team, spiritually.
Yes.
To beat the Eagles. Because the Patriots were in that game and driving with a chance to win it down the stretch, which I thought was maybe the most impressive loss, if we're going to give that a category, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't expect, I know it was in New England and it was Tom Brady Day, so you expected a little bit of extra oomph from the Patriots and the Patriot fans, but Eagles have they got all these great players, all this defense, and they didn't look that great in the 25-20 win. There was a questionable holding call on Hunter Henry that stalled one of their drives, and then, a few inches on that last throw from Mac Jones, and they were right in that game with another first down. So, I guess, shout out to the Patriots, although I don't want to.
Shout out to the Patriots.
And then I guess the last surprising game, Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
beating the Vikings in Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, Baker is going to win a couple games for you every year that you don't think he can win, and he's going to lose a couple games for you every year that you don't think you should lose.
It is a team, though. You still have, Chris Godwin. You have Mike Evans. You have a defense. You have some players on the offense. You got, Devin White. I forget the safety's name. That's...
Yeah, there's some talent. There's some talent there.
Yeah.
We still picked them last in that division, though.
We did.
And I still am going to stick with that. I like what Jimmy Garofalo did, and I like what Derek Carr did in their new homes for the first start.
Yes.
So shout out to those guys.
Although, we could credit the Saints defense for helping out because Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions, should have thrown 5, and he looked absolutely terrible in that close game with the Saints.
Yeah.
But also, special shout out to any Titan fan listeners. I was at the airport flying after all the afternoon games, and there were a lot of Titans fans in the New Orleans airport. So,
Good they traveled.
Yeah. I know we are a vacation city in New Orleans, so people like coming here, and, if you're looking to go to a away game, it's probably a pretty cool place to go, but...
New Orleans, Las Vegas, New York, and L.A.
Yeah. And then I guess we can talk rookies real quick. Bijan Robinson looked like he's as advertised.
Good start. He was my first pick in my fantasy league, and I was very pleased with him. I expect more things each week as he gets more comfortable.
Bryce Young had a really tough start.
As did Stroud.
Neither of those guys have a lot to play with, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, they brought in banged up Adam Thielen to be his go-to guy, and I don't think that's how you help a rookie quarterback. And then Anthony Richardson looked pretty good.
He looked pretty good.
They were driving with a chance to win that game. He rushed for a score, threw for a score, did throw a pick, but...
It took a massive hit in that last drive.
Yeah. But he says he's fine. It's just a little knee bruise. Don't worry about him. He'll be back next week. So, yeah. I don't really know what else we learned.
Yeah, it's a great sports week, except for the results. USA basketball
did not medal.
And lost 3 out of their last 4 games.
And got destroyed by Dylan Brooks, who scored 39 points against USC in the bronze medal game. The much maligned, often talked about in a negative way, Dylan Brooks. But...
you said you liked that Canadian team, and they played well.
Well, I just, I remember watching, you go back to the Dream Team up till now, and, every 4 years, every 8 years, whatever it is, you look at the international squads, and it's more and more NBA players, and recognizable NBA players.
That's the key, recognizable NBA players.
Like Canada has, first team All-NBA Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've got R.J. Barrett. They've got Dylan Brooks. They got Kelly. You have people that are stars in the league and people that are playing minutes. And then obviously, we talked about this, Joel Embiid, not American. Giannis, not American. Jokic, not American. That's your last 4 or 5 MVPs, and they all came from overseas. So, basketball is a very global game, and,
And really, you could argue the way this is going, that an NBA championship now might not be looked upon in the same way.
It's still where all the best in the world come to play, though.
It is. But
I know that's what that guy said.
But it's going to be interesting because now there's going to be a lot of pressure on people that weren't on the FIBA team, the World Cup team, to play in the Olympics.
Such as we saw today that LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum all expressed interest in playing
Steph Curry
in the Olympics. And that certainly tilts the power back towards America. That's...
Yes.
Nothing against the guys that went out there, but, they brought no size whatsoever other than Jaren Jackson Jr., who's not a traditional big. And, I really like the guys they brought, but it's not LeBron, AD, Tatum, Curry. If you're putting the best Americans out there, it's hard to imagine the best Americans would lose that tournament.
Oh, and Booker.
And Booker, yeah. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. They needed You know, the American model is drive to the hoop, and the international game is shoot and play good defense and run plays, and you're just not compatible.
No.
I mean, the German team that won the gold, I absolutely thought was the best team because it was the best team.
Yeah.
They played really well together. They passed really well together. Now, my big question mark is, since a couple of those guys play for the Magic, why do the Magic suck? The Wagner brothers look great.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think with Paolo, Wagner.
Yes, you get the Wagner brothers and Pollard.
Yeah.
Three of the Magic players.
Yeah, all played
in the game. One for the U.S. and two for Germany.
And I think they're on the come up. As people have pointed out, there's interesting teams that could trade for Dame, and the Magic are certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Because you look at the teams with like stacks of picks, and it's Utah, who's a really good team, and they're on the cusp. New Orleans, a lot of picks. Oklahoma City, a lot of picks. And then you look at, you know, and the way Dame plays basketball, he's good on the ball, good off the ball. And the Orlando Magic, who also have a lot of talent, and you know, and if you've got a big guard like Paolo on one side and you got Dame on the other, that's a pretty nice backcourt.
I'd say so.
And then Franz and Wendell Carter and everybody else, that's a contender in the East, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now again, I don't know what Dame, you know, there's no taxes in Florida, Dame, if you're ever listening.
They only got Miami, but
yeah, you know, Orlando's a short flight to Miami. And again, if you win in Orlando, you become the Orlando Magic legend. Because Shaq wasn't really there; was there for a little while. Tracy McGrady was there for a little while. They don't really have, you know, the greatest history, I would say, right?
I would say
like it wouldn't be tough to become. It wouldn't be tough to get a statue if you win a championship in Orlando.
Not at all.
If you're if you're Dame Lillard and you're the best player on a team that the Magic win with, you're getting a statue.
Yeah.
I think Kawhi could get one in Toronto, and Dame could have a similar thing in Orlando. And again, maybe you even have a thing with a team where you get traded there, and you know, maybe you really like it. Who can really say?
Who can say?
How about Alabama?
How about Texas? With the best stat I heard all week long is that since Joe Burrow signed his new contract, Arch Manning is going to make more than Joe Burrow this year with his NIL deals.
How is that possible?
I have no idea, but I heard that stat on ESPN.
That just seems insane. I mean, good for him. I'm not hating.
And he's not playing.
I know, he's not even playing.
So he's getting a lot of money for the clipboard baseball hat.
Yeah, that's
a really good way to go.
And you're already the brother. I mean, you're this, you know.
Yeah.
You already have famous family that's buku rich.
And you could take your NIL money and invest with them and even be more money, more money, more money.
Yeah. That's an interesting stat.
But Texas really played well. I mean, Alabama looked a little one-dimensional on offense.
They did. So this year, LSU's gone down, Clemson's gone down, Alabama's gone down.
Yeah.
3 powerhouses gone early. And now that's an SEC loss.
And of course, we got Michigan, Ohio State, and you know those guys don't ever play each other till the end, so they beat up on some weak teams early. But Ohio State hadn't been beaten up on; they've been winning by 30, but not the usual 50 or 60 they do. And it's interesting to see.
It is. Yeah, I'm still just stunned by the Arch Manning. Like, Joe Burrow just signed the richest deal in NFL history.
I know. Maybe he's not getting paid this year.
Yeah, maybe not this year.
That's what it might be.
But still, for a quarterback that's not even the starting quarterback on his college team, be making more in NIL money than a starting NFL quarterback is...
A starting elite NFL.
Yeah. And he was the first overall pick in the draft, wasn't he? Or
yeah.
Top 3 at the very least. Like, he's... You know... I think even Kenny... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Arch Manning was making $5 million a year in NIL deals at this point.
I wouldn't either. And he doesn't have to play this year.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get over that. That's nuts. Again, good for him. There's no hate on my part. I'm very happy for anyone that's making that kind of money. It's a crazy world. Whatever you can do to make your money, make your money. Wow.
I posted a really interesting thing on Twitter this week. We keep talking about this super Rooney from Oklahoma State wrote a book in 1980 called The Recruiting Game. And in 1980, he created his vision of what that a 48-team super conference would look like. So I took a picture from the book and posted it. But the interesting thing was, in his 48-team super conference, Oregon State and Washington State aren't in it. But neither's Oregon, because when he wrote the book in the 80s, Oregon wasn't any good.
And they were they connected to Nike or Nike wasn't Nike, and they weren't connected to Nike on the same level they are now. Whereas,
but he took out Vanderbilt and some of those schools. And so when you look at the list of 48 schools, it's pretty impressive that 43 years ago that was his call.
Yeah, I guess he was a visionary, saw it coming.
Yeah.
And speaking of visionary things from the 70s, just because we mentioned it today when we were talking about somebody that was in the terrible remake, if you've never seen Rollerball, just watch Rollerball.
The original Rollerball.
The original Rollerball. James Caan.
James Caan.
Because it is so much about sports, like it's finance and sports. Like it, to this day, it's.
Oh, and how violence is an important part of the sport, and it's why people go. You use rule changes to make people go to games. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
well done.
People always talk about The Simpsons predicting the future, but that movie might be as relevant as sports.
Corporate ownership.
Corporate ownership, yeah.
Global sport. Yeah, it's right there. 1975. James Caan playing the role of Jonathan E. playing for the Houston franchise.
And it's, like I said, it's still a very watchable movie, period. I mean, it's got that weird 70s future sci-fi, because it takes place in the future, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's just so spot on with the way things are today, and it just got me thinking.
And it's got the most interesting numerals on the player jerseys.
They are very cool.
Yep.
Somebody should have an NBA throwback rollerball edition. Because I think that would be just kind of cool.
Yep, really good. Shout out to Coco Gauff for winning the Women's U.S. Open. And shout out to the Joker for winning again. Highest attendance ever at the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Which you could predict when you had Americans into quarters and semis.
It's not tough, yeah.
Not tough.
People like winners.
Yeah. If we're good, we're interested. If we're not, we're not.
Yeah.
The Messi phenomenon seems to continue to go.
Yeah. The Messi thing seems to be getting into that, like, I mean, it's way newer, obviously, but you get certain people, like Beyonce was, and Taylor Swift is currently, where it's something everybody wants to be a part of. And the Messi thing seems to have sort of taken that, where, every celebrity's tweeting about Messi, even people that seemingly had no affiliation to football or soccer, depending on where you're from, but now they're all about, they're showing up in Miami to go to the Messi games, and it's become like, and again, I'm not sure how much of that is corporate related and everything else back to rollerball, but it just feels like it's got that momentum of like, this is something everybody's interested in right now, we're going to pay attention to it.
And real men wear pink, and Adidas is making a lot of money.
Yes, they are. I have not watched any MLS soccer.
Nor am I likely to.
No. It's just, there's a lot of content out there, and it's tough.
What do we got to look forward to this week?
Well, we still have tonight's game. Hopefully.
Which I'm really looking forward to.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has done his PR tour. He claimed in his interview with Aaron Andrews yesterday that the he you saw on Hard Knocks is the Aaron Rodgers he always is.
Yes.
And not the one that's reported often in the media as a disgruntled asshole. So, it's hard to say who you believe. All the years of him doing weird stuff, but yeah. He does seem happy now. Once again, talking about playing till he's 45. Everybody's excited about, But again, if you're the NFL, if the Jets are good, you got New York City, Dallas is exciting people, San Francisco's exciting people. I mean, that's, and then traditional powers like Green Bay, that's what you want. We do have entertainment because we watched something today that was very entertaining.
Yes.
We watched No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence.
And we laughed out loud.
Laughed out loud. She's phenomenal in it. Her timing is perfect.
Her timing is unbelievable, which is a big part of it. And whoever played the young man, I think his last name was Feldman.
Feldman, yeah.
He was phenomenal. Great casting.
Excellent casting. And that's the one that's basically parents take out an ad offering a car to anyone that'll help their son break out of his shell, most importantly sexually. And bizarrely, it is based on a real story, and they've shown the Craigslist ad. The rumor, though, is that although the parents put that ad out, nobody actually responded to the ad.
Which is hard to believe.
Which is hard to believe, because Craigslist is a pretty gross place, and it's hard to imagine they didn't get at least some responses. But, then they just rolled with it. Or maybe they didn't, parents were like, maybe they did get something, but don't want to admit that actually is what happened. But there is a real Craigslist ad, unless it was somehow, put
I'm sure there was a sex worker that would have liked to pick up a new car.
Yeah, even if it was like a $40,000 Buick, it's still a car.
Yeah.
It's still 10, 15 grand right there for, taking the virginity of a 19-year-old Princeton-bound student. But really funny movie. I know it's streaming now to buy and rent.
But definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it. And it goes sort of in the... It feels very much like, it's a nice tight 90 minutes. It's got a little bit of heart to it, and
it's a rom-com without the romance. It's
Yeah.
like a friend-com.
Friend com.
But definitely worth watching.
Yeah. It's very funny and just really enjoyable. I would love to tell you I have food moments, but I don't, again. I'm sorry. I'm working on it.
Try to find a food moment.
It just hasn't happened. You want it to happen every week.
Yeah.
Part of it is that you've been with us for over 300 episodes, and I've lived in the same city for most of that time, and I've been to the same restaurants over, at a certain point. I know you said you have some Gold Belly coming. We can report on it at the end of the week.
Yeah, and I bought Gold Belly had an offer to buy food from Hawaii, and the money would, and 100% of the money, not just 100% of the profits, were going to go back to relief efforts in Maui. So I jumped on and bought some pineapples, some masalas, which are Portuguese donuts that are very popular in Hawaii, and 6 mini loaves of various flavored banana bread.
And as I taught my dad, pineapples, if you don't know, are carnivorous. They produce a protein. It begins with a B. It's a very sciencey word that I can't quite pronounce or remember how to pronounce without looking at it. And while they could technically eat an animal or a man, they obviously don't have the ability to do so, but they do consume bugs who get caught up in the proteins and are eaten. So you can be eaten by your own food.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty fascinating.
I bought 2 Maui Gold pineapples. I'll comment on them after they come.
And then I guess the other big thing, back to football, is people producing halftime shows and pregame shows still don't seem to get it. They just add more people every single year, and it becomes like an awkward line of 6 people in suits trying to talk in the course of 4 minutes. And it just isn't a natural conversation or a natural way to talk about football. And I think it leads to some pretty bland.
And I would sit here and say that everybody did that this year.
Yeah.
Because game day added McAfee.
Yeah.
So now you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the board there. And then when you add the celebrity picker, you got 6.
Yeah.
And then Fox added Gronk. So they're up to 6, I believe it. Jimmy, Terry, JB, Howie, Gronk.
And they had Edelman on this week.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to bring somebody new in. And then, J.J. Watt joined CBS that already has Boomer and everybody else. And again, I just think it already felt overproduced, and now it's just even more crowded and even more produced. And I don't think you're getting interesting football discussion. I don't think it gives you enough time to really have anybody have an interesting take, or more importantly, I'm not asking for the Stephen A. yelling back and forth at each other, but there should be some sort of discussion on a point. It shouldn't just be, here's my 40 seconds that I have on air, I'm going to talk about this, and then we're done with that. Like, there should be some sort of back and forth. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting, and we're just not getting there. But, they're making tons of money, so I guess it doesn't really matter. And I think that's the thing with the NFL is, somebody wants to be the official ladder of the NFL, and they're willing to pay millions of dollars to do it. Mm-hmm. So they're falling ass backwards into money no matter what they do. So it doesn't really matter what you know. People are tuning in to watch no matter what. So you can put 9 people and give them 4 minutes to talk or 2 minutes to talk, and people are still going to watch it. It doesn't mean you're making good content or good programming, but
I think my favorite thing on the Home Depot show on College Game Day is whatever food they bring out from whatever restaurant they're at. They cater to the guys up there. I like that. Otherwise, no.
I do as well. There was, speaking of, I guess here's my food moment. Do you ever watch the One Bite reviews with David Portnoy, who's sort of sports, because he's got Barstool? He goes to a different pizza place literally every day. And he does seem like, you know.
How much does he weigh?
He goes up and down. He wears loose fitting clothing.
Okay.
But, you know, you can argue whether or not he does something good for the business or bad for the business based on his rating. But at the very least, if you're a pizza place, you're getting a free commercial from a guy that gets millions of views and millions of follows. And this week, a guy came out of his restaurant and started screaming at him. And apparently his business is booming, even though his pizza looked pretty trash. But Dave Portnoy is one of those, like, he's a bro, he's a frat guy, so he's automatically got, you know, he's got a past of some sketchy stuff, some business stuff. His company just was bought back for $1, and he immediately laid off 15% of his workforce.
Wow.
So he's not the great, but I mean, you know, I do enjoy I just like looking at the pizzas. And as far as the other guy goes, saying he does nothing for the food, like, I don't listen to what he has to say about pizza, but I do make notes of each pizza place, so I think there is some benefit to it.
Yeah.
But
if it looks good.
If it looks good. He gave our Fiore's only a 7.9 out of 10. And
sitting on that.
he thought that pizza was too oily, which the Fiore's guy came out on Twitter and called him an idiot and said, you don't understand what good mozzarella cheese does, which is very true.
They have good quality. I think their cheese is a mozzarella provolone blend.
Yeah. And the better the cheese quality, it's going to be, you're going to get some of the natural oils of the cheese. Just flat out, that's the way it is.
I agree.
And you're going to like it.
Trying to think what else.
I wish I had more. I guess video game moment. Starfield came out. It immediately had 6 million concurrent players. And it's a traditional Bethesda. That means your Skyrim, which is sold a bazillion copies, your Fallouts. And this is Skyrim in space, basically. And my brother and I are both playing it and really enjoying it. So, but if you follow video games, there's no way you don't know about Skyrim or Starfield. So.
Oh, and if you haven't watched it, the second season of Winning Time, I think it's outstanding. I love the casting. I think that they've done a great job. The only thing they couldn't cast is height, but they went for facial recognition, which I think was a smart move to go. Kareem might be 6'5" in this series, but
they try with angles from time to time. But there's times like I had never actually watched an episode until today, and it was like, you know, and one of my biggest critiques of sports movies and television shows is that they put people that look like they've never attempted to play the sport or seen it before. And everyone seems very competent. Like the guy Larry Bird looks like Larry Bird shot. He looks tall.
He's not good looking.
No, the Kurt Rambis guy and the Kareem guy, obviously, they, you know, there's not a lot of 7-footers in real life, let alone 7-footers that can act, let alone 7-footers that can act and play basketball and look like two very specific people. So, given all that,
Looks like Magic. Guy looks like Bird. Looks like Bird.
Yeah.
The guy looks like Kareem looks like him. He's just not. He's only like an inch taller than everybody else in the cast.
And again, oftentimes they are showing him at these, you know, clear angles to show him taller, but then when you get a wide shot or some other shot, you can clearly see he's about an inch taller. But, you know.
A huge shout out to John C. Reilly, who plays Jerry Buss. And since I met Jerry Buss in my NBA days, this is as spot on as it gets.
And Adrian Brody is young Pat Riley.
Adrian Brody's a young Pat Riley, and I didn't meet Pat at that juncture of his career, so I don't know, but I'm bought in.
Yeah, I thought he was doing a really nice job.
I'm bought in all the characters except for Jerry West, because the Jerry West I met is not the Jerry West that you see on the show. But I'm saying that's not who he is.
And Jerry West has made it clear that he is not that character.
He's made it very clear.
Yeah.
But good series, very enjoyable.
Yes.
Dark Winds ended up, and I love that. Stream it on AMC or Hulu. Don't miss it. It's really, really good. And there's a new show out called More Dark Winds, which is an hour, kind of a how we made the series and why we do what we do, and interviews with the actors and the Native American cultural people. It's really good.
And now, I mean, a long time coming, but between Dark Winds and Reservation Dogs, there's some really excellent, and obviously, Tahiti also does What We Do in the Shadows, which isn't specific, but at least from a Native American creator. So you're getting some really good stuff out there. New voices in a good way. So, and then I guess good luck on your fantasy. My team is not good, and it looks like it'll be a long fantasy season for me. We'll do at some point in mid-season, we'll do a fantasy check-in at the end of the episode, so you don't have to sit there and listen to it all. But I think I'm going to have I'm in the Caleb Williams, because I have a dynasty league, so I'm in the Caleb Williams potential on my team as the first overall pick in the draft, just like NFL teams are. And as I only half-jokingly said to my dad, as the Steelers are 0-1, look pretty terrible, we are now in the Steelers Caleb Williams watch, which is kind of exciting.
So enjoy. Hopefully the game won't be delayed too long tonight. I think this is going to be our new operation. I think we're going to probably try and do a show on Mondays now.
Yeah. Oh, and one business-wise, sports business, shout out to YouTube, who I think has done a really good job with NFL Sunday Ticket so far. I like being able to put whatever 4 games I want or any combination on the screen after I watch the Steelers. So you can pick, with DirecTV you couldn't pick your 4, but now you could literally put 3 games you want and the red zone.
I like everything about it but the price.
It's true. It's very true. But everything is super expensive. I don't know how it's all working for everybody, but good luck.
And my baseball moment is that the Angels have said that if Mike Trout requests it, they'll trade him. Which to me, and I'm taking what Tony Kornheiser said, for gospel, that means the owner's probably looking at, Otani's going to leave, Trout will leave, it'll be a massive rebuild. And I don't know how well that'll play in LA.
Like you said, I never thought about the curse of the second team in LA, but it seems very true. And I don't know how you rebuild from there. Like, it's hard to imagine you're going to have 2 generational talents in Trout and Otani ever again in your organization, and seemingly unlimited money, and still come up short every year. So I don't know how you recover from that. I don't know if you ever do. So
I don't know where they'll end up, but I guarantee they won't be Pirates.
No.
Not even if they were Bogo.
Yeah. Unless we can sell the Pirates to get Mark Cuban interested again.
Or Michael Keaton.
Or Michael Keaton and Mark. Maybe both of them. We could have Batman and Mark Cuban owning the Pirates. Because again, the last thing I'll say is that we talked offline, like, as annoying as he is, and as much as I don't root for the Cowboys, I do appreciate an owner like Jerry Jones that clearly wants to win and will keep doing whatever. He may make stupid decisions, but they're based on him thinking he's making the right decision for his team to win. And I don't think he has I don't think he cares financially as much as some of the other owners seem to. He's got the ego that he wants to be the best football organization, which I really do appreciate. So,
well, my last comment is I won my fantasy matchup this week. I'm excited.
Yeah, and as I pointed out, I've severely lost mine. I think I've scored the second least points in the league this week. And I lost J.K. Dobbins. And, shout out to J.K. Dobbins. That might be the end of your career, sadly.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So we'll be back next week. And we'll be able to incorporate Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen into our conversation after tonight. And hopefully it won't be a monsoon and an ugly game. Hopefully we get both teams in a way we can actually assess what they're doing.
All right, buddy. Have a good week.